Hello again, my friends, and welcome back to my channel. And if you can hear that my voice doesn't sound exactly the way it usually does, it's because I've been recently sick, just had a cold, and my voice is not 100% back, but I am otherwise fine, no more fevers or anything, so that's good. And I figured I would get back into making some videos for you guys. And I have for a very long time now, I think, been talking about wanting to do a bookshelf tour video because, I love those sorts of videos. I love watching them and I want to make one myself. But I'm gonna put that off for the future, maybe at the end of the year, because I'm planning on moving this summer and things are gonna sort of change because I'm gonna hopefully finish my degree in May, hopefully. But at the latest in August, and then I need to look for a job, and just things are gonna be weird for a while. So after all that, maybe I'll do one if it's practically possible to do one. Right now, it's not really. I don't really have a good practical solution for making one. So I figured I would do a new type of videos on my channel, which these videos are. They're not a replacement for a bookshelf tour video because I want to do one of those in the future, but it's just my way of picking a part of my book collection or my movie collection or whatever collection I want to show off, but just showing it to you, what the stuff that I have in my collection, and this time I figure we will look at the Sci-Fi and Fantasy Masterworks series because I have a bunch of those. It's not a big great collection, but I have a few and I want to show them to you. A lot of those I haven't read though, so because I'm a slow reader and I haven't gotten around to all of these. But let's start. So let's start with the Fantasy Masterworks series, and there I have the very first one, the number one, Book of the New Sun, Volume 1, Shadow and Claw by Gene Wolfe. I have actually read Book of the New Sun, but not this particular edition because I had them in Swedish once upon a time, and then I replaced them with these English versions. But they are interesting reads. They are. I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of fantasy and it's sort of post-apocalyptic story as well, and they're very unique. Can be bits. I don't know. It can be a bit of a chore to read sometimes, but I think in the end, when you sort of figure it all out, I think it's worth it because they're very, very unique. And then the next one would be number 2, and this is Time and the Gods by Lord Dunsany. I've always pronounced it Lord Dunsany, but someone said Dunsany, so now I'm not sure anymore. But anyway, this is a collection of really old, short fiction from Lord Dunsany. This one I actually have read, and this is a fairly thick book. And this is really interesting. If you want to get into very, very early fantasy, I think this is something to pick up, definitely. Lord Dunsany lived between 1878 and 1957, so that's sort of the age span you can expect for these stories. Really interesting, very very weird fantasy stories. They're sort of high fantasy because there's gods and stuff, but sort of not, it was before we even had a concept for high fantasy, so that's really interesting. And there's another old one. This is The Worm Ouroboros, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. There's a lot of O's in the word, by E.R. Edison, and this is also a very old one, I think. Not sure when 1922 this book was first published. Haven't read this one, so can't say anything about it, but I really want to read it because I'm just interested in old stuff, in old fantasy and old sci-fi, so I want to get to that one pretty soon. And then we have Tales of the Dying Earth by Jack Vance. Let's see if you can get cover without reflection. Yeah, I think you see it. This is a really thick one as well. I think it's like a collection of stories from the Dying Earth universe. I really like the cover on this one. I think this one looks really nice. I don't think I understand like the context for the cover. Hopefully I will when I read the book, but I don't know. I like it. Wanna check it out pretty soon. So I'm just gonna put these away back here, and then we get on with the second pile here, and then we start with Viriconium, something like that, by M. John Harrison. This is not in the best condition because I bought it secondhand, but I bought it secondhand really recently, and I was very happy to find this because, you know, it's a new addition to the collection. And this is also, it says the first story appeared in 1966, so I think it might be a collection of stories. Yeah, I think so. Don't know much about these. Honestly, I know nothing about them other than the title, so there you go. And then we have the Conan Chronicles, Volume 1, The People of the Black Circle by Robert E. Howard. I think, read some of these stories, probably not all of them, and probably not in order, but one day I will get around to reading these collected editions here. This was actually the very first Fantasy Masterworks book that I ever got. So I probably should have read it by now, but well, you know me, I'm very bad at planning stuff. And then we have the Conan Chronicles Volume 2, The Hour of the Dragon, also by Robert E. Howard, of course. Classic sword and sorcery. And then we have Time and Again by Jack Finney. This is a time travel story of some kind. I actually bought this for a book club. We were gonna read it, but then I never read it. I don't know why. I never did. That's life, I guess. And then some more Jack Vance. This is Lioness Soldran's Garden, which is part of, not part of his Dying Earth universe, I think, but it's part of some kind of universe anyway. Because I know there's more than one of these in the Fantasy Masterworks series. And then we have Black Gods and Scarlet Dreams by C.L. Moore. This is, I believe, a female author. I think her name is Catherine or something. I don't know, it doesn't say. It doesn't say her full name, but it says it's a woman, so yes, female author. Haven't read this one, but I want to at some point. And then we have The Iron Dragon's Daughter by Michael Swanwick. This one I really want to try because I read the back here and it sounded really interesting. It's sort of, it's in the Fantasy Masterworks series, but I think it's more like a steampunk, because, you know, the Iron Dragon is like a mechanical dragon or something. It's kind of weird, but I like the idea of that anyway. And then we have Sea Kings of Mars and Otherworldly Stories by Lee Brackett. This is a collection of short fiction as well. And Lee Brackett is also a female author, and I do really want to read this. I like the cover of this one. Looks really intriguing. So yeah, I want to get around to reading that some day. And then we have The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia A. McKillip. I haven't read this particular book, but I have read other books by the same author, and I think she has a really interesting writing style. You know, it's not always quite what you're used to, I think, or at least as far as I remember. So those were all the Fantasy Masterworks series, so I am going to include one more here. It's not technically in the Fantasy Masterworks series, or the title is in the Fantasy Masterworks series, but I have it in another edition by the same publisher, but it looks kind of different. But I don't know what other collection overview I would included in, so I include it here because why not? This is Blood in the Mist by Hope Mirrorless, or Mirrorless, I guess. Mirrorless, yeah. And these covers, Gollancz did a short series with these covers. I'm probably gonna replace this one with the Fantasy Masterworks edition at some point, but at this point in time, this is the edition that I have. And then moving on to the SciFi Masterworks series, which I don't think I have quite as many in, or maybe I do. Well, let's see. First of all, I have I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, which the movie I Am Legend is based on. And this is a very thin book, surprisingly thin actually, but I'm gonna read it at some point. I think it's like a zombie book, but it's like a sci-fi version of zombies. I don't know. I just watched the film. I don't know more about it than that. And then we have Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, and this is the old version of the cover. There's a newer one, which I actually also have. We will look at that later. And then we have Stand on Zanzibar by John Brunner. Don't know much about this one, but I have it for some reason. And then we have The Book of Skulls by Robert Silverberg. This is also one I bought recently. I found it secondhand in my local secondhand store, so I was really happy about that. And then we have The Time Machine and The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I haven't read these, but I totally should, because these are like the origin of sci-fi. Or not, well, Frankenstein is sort of the origin of sci-fi, but this is the sort of space alien invasion kind of stories. And then we have The Shrinking Man, also by Richard Matheson, also a fairly thin book. I haven't read this one, but I've seen the movie. The one from, is it from 1953? I think it's from the 50s anyway. I've seen that one. And then we have The Dancers at the End of Time by Michael Moorcock. This is also a very chunky book. This one I really want to read because it sounds really interesting. I'm gonna get around to it sometime when I have time, which I never do. And then we have The Man in High Castle by Philip K. Dick, and this is one of the few ones I have in hardcover. This one I have read. It was an interesting read, but it's Philip K. Dick and it was really weird, and I'm not sure I liked it or not. I'm sort of still undecided on that part. And now we're moving on to SF Masterworks, but newer editions, meaning the yellow spine editions, which I personally don't like as much. I don't like the yellow color. I think the older ones looks nicer, but that's just me. But here I have Inverted World by Christopher Priest, which I bought at Worldcon in Finland. So that's nice. And then we have Earth Bites by George R. Stewart, which I have read and I have reviewed it on my channel if you want to check it out. Oops. And then we have Roger Salasti, Lord of Light. I haven't read this book, but I have read his Amber series, which it was a long time ago now, but I remember liking them. They were very imaginative, I think. And then we have Wasp by Eric Frank Russell. Also haven't read it, but I got it from a friend, so that's totally awesome. And then we have Arslan by M.G. Eng. I don't know. It's a really weird name. But anyway, it's about a guy named Arslan, I guess. Not the one from Narnia. Or what was his name? Oh, I don't remember. It's something like that. And then we have Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, again, by Philip K. Dick in the newer edition. And the reason I have both of them is that I read this for a book club. So I bought it new, this one, and this was the one that was in print at the time. So I bought it and I read it, and then later on I found the older edition in a second-hand store, and since I prefer the older editions, I bought that one, but I've still kept this one. I don't know if I'm going to continue to keeping this one, but why not? That's just the kind of crazy collector that I am. And then we have the last one, which is Frank Herbert's Dune. This is the other one I have in hardcover. This is also a very thick one. I started reading this a long time ago, and technically I'm still reading it. I'm almost finished, let's say. But I really like it. It's a very heavy, dense book, and just really, really, really heavy world building. Good world building, but just so much to take in, and so much information, and so much going on, and so much politics, and just it's a really good book, but it's it takes a lot of sort of energy or brain power to read it, because it is so good and it's so massive. So yeah, anyway, those are my sci-fi and fantasy masterworks series books. It's far from complete collection, but it's, I think, a good start, and I like these. It's a really nice initiative from the publisher side to publish these. I think it makes you look at some of the older ones. What were the classics back then? Well, these are the ones. So, do you have any of these books? Do you also collect the Fantasy Masterworks series or the Sci-Fi Masterworks series? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below as usual, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye.